everyone. Welcome to this edition of Between Two Lances. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to Anne Parmeter out of the Portland, Oregon area. Hi, Anne. How are you?
Great. How you doing?
I'm doing fantabulous. Hey, thanks for joining us today. I saw your Instagram page recently, and I was just so captivated by all of those illustrations that you've done, and you connected that with your work as an instructional design freelancer. And I'm so curious in this session that we're going to go through today is how you got into this, what inspired you, and what did you do before you began your freelance work, and what have you been doing the last 2 years in your freelance biz, and maybe where you want to go with your work. So let's just start with, introducing yourself, and let me know, what is it that you were doing before you did freelance work?
Yeah. So I got a master's degree in teaching English as a second language. And right after I finished my graduate program, I taught in Japan. I was an ESL teacher for years, and I mostly loved the interaction with media and creating curriculum. So I came back to Portland in 2011, and I was trying to figure out how to apply those skills in full-time employment and also get paid well doing it. And I learned about instructional design. So I was working in big corporations doing corporate instructional design. And my work got more and more technical as the field changed, and instructional designers needed to be videographers and
Oh yeah.
as well. And I love that. I mean, I was in the right time, in the right field, at the right place.
Yeah, that's, instructional designers really have many hats to wear, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You do have to wear a lot of hats. And I think in what you do, you showcase one of those hats is the creative side. You have to be creative, but you do it in a way that's visual. You take data, you take information, you turn that into a visual. So in a way, it's not just content that you're writing, but somehow you're visually expressing that. So how did you get the inspiration to do all of this? Where did you find that?
Well, are you speaking specifically about the visuals?
Oh, the visuals, like some of the watercolor images that you've done, right? And some of the analogies that you put into the visual, or the scale images. You have some scales, like what's weighing more than others. Where does that inspiration come from?
So that started about 5 years ago. It actually started after a bad first date. And I got home from this date where a man had been insulting and his behavior was so astounding. And he asked me out for a second date, and I created a decision tree matrix to explain to him why I was not interested in going out with him again. And it highlighted all of his bad behavior because I was so livid and I was in such disbelief that he could behave so poorly. And I shared this on Instagram. And at the time I had 15 followers on Instagram. It was people, my sister, my neighbor,
right.
Nobody. And this caught on. People thought it was the funniest thing.
Oh, wow.
It changed my experience of it. Instead of being, I went from literally crying about this experience to being able to commiserate with other people and laugh. And I was hooked after that. Every time I had a horrible experience, I would just draw about it, and it would help me reframe it and be able to laugh about it.
That is amazing. Who would have thought a bad date propel your site to new heights? And you've got several thousand followers on Instagram. And for those of you watching today's episode, please do visit at Anne Parmeter. She's got amazing work. And before you became a full-time freelancer, did you have any fears about going on your own? How did you overcome them if you did?
I haven't overcome them. It's constant waves of, yeah. If you find the secret, let me know. It's just being a freelancer is so incredibly rewarding, and there are constant waves of anxiety. It You don't have the job security that you have when you're part of a company, and I mean, who are we kidding? In this economy, no one has job security, even if they are with a large corporation. So I think just um, being forced to take the plunge, I had set an arbitrary number in my head, and I said, when I have this amount of money saved up, I'll feel comfortable being a freelancer. And now I think I'm just comfortable with the anxiety. I'm comfortable with not having security because there are so many other rewards that make it all worthwhile.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. I mean, I think you're right that we never really lose that fear. But that could be a motivator, right? In some ways.
Yeah.
But the rewards can be even bigger than the level of fear. So what do you think was the hardest part about being a freelancer? Like right now, what do you find are the biggest challenges?
Yeah, I think not having community and missing out on opportunities to bounce ideas off of someone, like you might have that in an office. So obviously organizations like yours creating community for instructional designers is so important. I'm able to build in that sort of collaboration and community in different ways, but it was very intentional. If I didn't reach out to people and schedule, coffee date, meetups, Zoom calls, and this is, several times a week, just to bounce ideas off of, I would be really lonely doing this sort of work.
Yeah, isolation or feeling lonely can be uh, it can be a challenge at times, especially if you're just working out of your home office. And whereas, I used to work in a Fortune 50 company years ago, and every day I'd wake up, get to work by 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'd be intermingling with people, dozens of people every day, and then come home about 5 or 6 p.m. But as a freelance consultant, it's certainly a different world. But you're right, you have to kind of find new ways to communicate and find those social connections. And we certainly like to offer that here at IDLance. And I'm so glad that you're a member of our team. And but yeah, you're right. We have to be part of some social community to feel like that there's always somebody there to help you or answer questions or give you the rah rah, keep you going. So now you just talked about some of the hardest parts about being a freelance, but let's flip the tables here. So what are some of the best parts of being a freelance instructional designer?
Oh, it's hard to choose. I love the work that I get to do. I'm so excited that after this call, I'm going to spend my afternoon doing animations for an introduction on a video series. I get to dictate the kind of work I do. I get to choose my projects,
Wow.
um, a complete creative direction. I get to do work that feeds my soul, that I feel really, really deeply good about. Um,
Yeah.
in my recent newsletter, I talked about doing an exercise to determine my personal core values and then matching that to which projects satisfied my values. And I don't know that you get to do that sort of thing when you're working for someone else.
Yeah, it is hard to do that because when you're working for somebody else, as you know, you're really living someone else's dream, right? Right now, you get to live your dream, which is kind of a bonus being a freelancer. So, you know, uh, now that you've had experience as a freelancer for a while and you've had experience prior to freelancing, what would you say are two or three things that you wished you knew before you started freelancing?
Yeah. You know, if someone had prepared me for the importance of contracts, working with clients, um, I probably would have been bored to tears by that conversation. But I didn't know how important those early on having written agreements on um, how many review cycles you're going to do with someone, what is the cost for revisions after the project is completed, the importance of setting those boundaries up front. Because, you know, a year later, I was kicking myself that I didn't do this work on the front end. So now I'm being a lot more thorough, but I wish I know.
Yeah, that's a challenge for sure. So, what would you say, Anne, is your biggest accomplishment, or what are you most proud of in the work that you do as a freelancer?
Yeah. I guess something that I'm currently celebrating is that a little over a year now, after going fully out on my own, I have a work queue in place for the next 3 months. And that's really exciting for me.
Yeah,
Knowing what I'm going to,
congratulations.
yeah. So this is the first for me where I know what my next few months are going to look like. And I had a couple conversations.
Yay.
Um,
That's a big deal.
yeah, yeah. I had some conversations with people who were approaching me about jobs. And in the past, I would have said yes to things. And I would have, you know, when they say jump, I would have jumped. And I said, you know, I have a queue until the end of the year, but I would love to start this project with you in January 2021. And I thought, you know, no one in their right mind would wait around for me like that. And to have people who want to work with me enough that they said, sure, we'll wait. That's great. So I just feel really grateful for that.
Yeah, and I can tell you, having been in the freelance consulting business for probably 12 years now, that the further you're into your freelance career, the more secure you're going to feel. And
Yeah.
it's great. So keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. So, all right, so here's a silly question for you.
Okay.
You might have to wear your cape for this. If you could have a superpower, what would that be and why?
Okay, so here's something that popped into my head recently. I already have a superpower, and I actually have two superpowers.
Oh,
And
nice. Hey.
yeah, one of them is knowing what my superpower is. I think everyone has a superpower in their career, and not everyone knows what it is. And just recently, I realized that the one thing that has pointed to any professional success that I've had is the relationships that I've built. So there are other people out there who are doing better work than me. There are other people who are working cheaper or faster, but my superpower is always going to be how I've treated other people and the community that I have built and those relationships that I've maintained.
Oh, yeah, and it's working. I can see that. I can go to Instagram and I see that. That's great. Yeah, that's definitely a superpower.
So I think, you know, I think everyone has their, what is it, their tool in their tool belt or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And you want to use your strengths to the fullest, as you do your freelance work. That's really cool. Well, thanks for sharing. Um, so,
What is your,
as I'm sorry.
what is your superpower, Parker?
My superpower is, well, wow, I don't know. I didn't really give myself some thought to that, but I think I like bridging practical to research. Maybe that's one of my strengths, is being able to take some of the adult learning research that's out there, which I've done tons of, and being able to connect it to practical, real solution. And it's probably because I've been doing it for decades. So yeah, I would say maybe that's a superpower. And
Awesome.
and I love pun wars. I don't know if that's a superpower or not, but
What is it?
puns,
Oh,
yeah, stupid pun jokes. That's what I like.
great.
You know, I'm always a glutton for punishment.
Oh, God.
Sorry. Had to Anyway, so all right, Anne, I just want to ask you one more thing before we wrap up.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people out there, they're trying to decide whether to leave their full-time instructional design roles in a company and become a freelance ID, which is kind of, you know, nerve-rattling for a lot of these people because, you know, am I going to have the income? Am I going to be secure? Can I find work? But there are people looking to make that leap from a full-time role to become a freelancer. What would be the most important advice that you would give those folks before they do that?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm even qualified to give advice to anybody else. I'm picking it up as I go. And I guess, I mean, the one thing that I tell people is when it comes to sharing your work, more is more. I just think you've got to be visible with the work that you're putting out there. You need to have a portfolio online. You need to have a YouTube channel. If your audience is on Instagram, you need to be on Instagram. Do you have Twitter? Is it visible? Is it unlocked? Make yourself so easy to contact and to find online.
Good advice. And a lot of people don't even know where to begin with a portfolio or social media, but I'm sure there are a lot of YouTube videos out there to show you how to do that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they have to be.
Ask a teenager.
Right. So yeah, probably it's because people want to check you out before they give you a call, right?
Yep. Yeah.
They just want to see what you have out there publicly. So yeah, that's pretty sound advice. Yeah, and of course, a lot of us that have been in the freelance world for a while do have portfolios, but sometimes when you are not sure about making that leap, maybe one of the first things you do is start building that public portfolio before you make that leap, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the idea of how we share online has really changed dramatically, even in the last couple years. Early in my career, I had, a private blog that I kept, and I had my Instagram was private, and all of these things were private. And meanwhile, the things that I'm sharing on those platforms is relevant to my career. It's all the same brand message. And this idea of what professionalism looks like and what is relevant, you're all the same, you're the same person wherever you're showing up. So make it visible.
Yeah, yeah. So now you started your portfolio before you made the move, correct?
I do believe so. Yeah, I had my website was pretty crappy, I think, though. So it's a work. It's constant work.
Right. You had something though. That's good. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Anne Parmeter from Portland, Oregon. Thanks so much for joining today's Between Two Lances episode. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you, and hope to talk with you again soon. And appreciate all the advice and information you shared with us today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Parker.
Thank you. Well, have a great day.
Yeah, you too.